So welcome today to the brewing of the very first bottles of the Rhino Conservation Gin. It's a momentous day and we're going to sell lots and lots of gin with the proceeds all going to Rhino Conservation. And how did it start? It all hinges about trying to integrate communities into our wildlife industry. So it all started with the extraordinary rhino poaching scourge which has enveloped South Africa, and how do we start to address the root causes of rhino conservation to help protect rhinos. And one of the key ingredients is that many of our communities who live around our parks are excluded from the tourism and wildlife industries. And if we're going to protect rhinos, and now with the tsunami of elephant poaching arriving in southern Africa, if we're going to protect our wildlife, how are we going to do that? We can throw military at it, we can throw arms, we can throw all the rest of it, but unless our communities are part of the story and part of the tourism and wildlife industries at scale, we're not going to succeed. There will always be people jumping over the fence to try and improve their lives. And the Tourism Conservation Initiative, which is driving this process, started about the tourism industry getting together at scale and creating a fund which will then address at a macro level the inadequacies of the tourism policies and procedures of the past. And to do that we need money. And how are we going to raise money? Well, the tourism industry has to get together and start to add a little bit onto every single customer's invoice, and that money then goes into a fund which addresses the bigger picture issues. And that fund then can go and address primarily the problems around Kruger Park. We've got something like 3.5 million people living around Kruger Park. Most of them have got no attachment to Kruger Park at all, got no benefits arising from Kruger Park. And if we can bring them into the tourism economy at scale, we can start to address the problems which are integral to our rhino and elephant poaching problems. So here we are today at the very start of the Rhino Gin process. And the Rhino Gin program is working with a whole lot of really good people. First of all, Roger Jorgenson, who's the gin doyen in South Africa. He makes the most extraordinary gins, all craft, made by Ugly Betty behind us here. It's the old moonshine type distillery, and it's done the old way. And he creates these fantastic gins made out of mainly fynbos and other botanicals. And he has come together and made a special Rhinosterfelt gin. And Rhinosterfelt in itself is another endangered fynbos, which has been gobbled up by agriculture in the Western Cape. But there are a few remaining patches and they're well protected. And using some of those botanicals, Roger's crafted the most extraordinary gin. And the key point of this gin is that all proceeds will go to rhino conservation through the Tourism Conservation Fund. So it'll be sold at normal retail prices, but every single cent which is made by the sales of this gin will go to big picture conservation initiatives which will address the rhino poaching scourge which hits South Africa. So the Tourism Conservation Fund initiative, which is driving this process, is the primary beneficiary, but it's something which all South Africans need to get behind if we're going to make this tourism industry have longevity. I reckon that we have two prime major draw cards in South Africa, Cape Town and the Kruger Park. And if Kruger Park is going to be part of the tourism industry going forward at scale and with complete inclusiveness with its neighboring communities, Kruger Park can be such a greater contributor to the tourism industry, and also to secure all the tourism businesses which rely on a thriving, well-protected Kruger Park and a thriving Cape Town. And around those two major destinations, two major tourist attractions, everything else benefits. So if we look after Kruger Park and we look after Cape Town, we're in the prime seats to make sure that South Africa has a thriving tourism industry, and we can grow that well into the future. So here we go, this fantastic Rhino Gin. We've had the first little samples today. It's fabulous. It's a prime craft gin. It's going to be on the shelves very shortly. The first batch is only 600 bottles. They're nearly half sold out already before we even started the gin process. And once we've proved that we've got a model which works, that people buy, and it sits on every single bar in every single lodge in South Africa, and it sits in the bottle stores and people are buying it, we can create a really solid revenue stream for rhino conservation in South Africa. So I implore every one of you, get your orders in. You're going to buy this gin. It's fabulous and it's going to make a big difference to rhino conservation in South Africa. Thank you.